It's a short while before lunch, but we will be getting to that shortly. I trust that following that session that just ended, you, ladies and gentlemen, are ready for takeoff. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, one of the organizational distinctives of Africa50 is its capacity to think outside the box and push the frontiers of what is possible. Now, during our meeting here in Lome today, you're about to meet a remarkable woman who defies gravity and pushes the boundaries of human exploration. With her unwavering determination and a passion for the stars, Sarah Sabri has soared to new heights, both literally and figuratively. She trained in astrophysics and aerospace engineering, and in 2021 became the first African astronaut aboard an international space station. It really is my pleasure to welcome to this Africa50 fireside chat a pioneer astronaut with an indomitable spirit who is an inspiration to all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a very, very warm welcome to Sarah Sabri. You're welcome. Now, I'm really curious. I mean, not too many people, when you're young, wake up and say, one day I'm going to be an astronaut. What was the pivotal moment for you? When did you know you were going to become an astronaut?
It was more about curiosity than anything else. I started asking a lot of questions after my studies. I graduated from mechanical engineering in Egypt, did my master's in biomedical engineering in Italy, and then I started asking the big questions about humanity, about origins, about life. And the more I was looking for those answers, the more I was left with more questions. And that really drove me into really thinking, so what can I do about it? And I think that's the most important question that I've ever asked myself. So since then, it was, well, also there's this quote that I've heard, and I think it's really important. You cannot be what you cannot see. And for me, I couldn't really see anyone that came from the same country, from the same continent, that did something that I wanted to do.
Limiting factor for you?
Well, of course, because there was no path for me to take. I had to kind of make it up as I go, and I had to really believe that it was possible.
Parent, I'm going to ask you this question. What did your parents say? Your father, your mother?
My parents, before getting the news that I was going to space, my dad was a very big reason for why I am the way I am. Because as a man in Egypt, he never really distinguished between the characteristics of a man and a woman, which is quite rare, honestly. And he taught us that, well, we can do everything, we can do anything. And I saw how much he sacrificed, both of my parents, my mom as well. She was one of the first electrical engineers in Lebanon. So I had both of my parents, I have both of them to thank for becoming who I am. Because I think it's really important for you to believe that it is possible, that you are capable more than anything. And then you work your way towards making it happen.
Well, what was it, not having any role models, African, that you knew of, that really convinced you that you could make it?
Well, I really believed, honestly. And because you can't be what you can't see, I had to see myself do it. And I think, for me, I was always thinking, well, I'm just going to work really as hard as I can. And I've always been really more working towards solving a problem. And I treated this as if it was a regular engineering problem. So this is a problem, we need to have answers to these questions. So how do you break it down? So I need to do this, I need to do that. And then you just work and keep working and keep having focus. I think that's really, really important. And above all, the most important part is seeing yourself. It's really believing. Because if you don't see yourself do the thing, it's going to be really hard to actually do it. So for me, what I used to do is before going to sleep every single night, I used to imagine myself sitting on top of in a capsule, on the chair, strapped in, on top of a rocket. I used to do it again and again and again and again. That would be the last thing I would see until it actually happened.
So you imagined it and it became a reality.
Yes.
Thank you. And for those who may not really be conversant with what it takes to become an astronaut, but let me put that in perspective. There are only 632 people who have ever been to space, less than 700. And of the 700, only 80 are women. So you belong to a very exclusive, very rare. What were the challenges that you had to overcome to get there? And what were the lessons that you learned from that experience?
Well, the fact that it's an exclusive club is something that, I really don't want it to be that way. I think the first thing that I said when I came back from space was that everyone needs to see this. Everyone needs to be able to see Earth from space because it belongs to everyone. And for me, I think becoming the first in something is just the first step. It's our responsibility to kick the door open for others to follow and to make it easier for them. And for me, I was always told not to pursue everything that I wanted to pursue because as a woman, I shouldn't be interested in mechatronics. And wanting to work in the biomedical engineering field, that I would never have any opportunities, that it was ridiculous for me to be doing that. And then when it came to being interested in the space field, I was told that it was just a waste of time. And above all of that, in our culture, in our country, sometimes the success of a woman is regarded as less than that of a man, and that we always have a backup in the end, where you just get married and stay at home. But for me, that was not an option. And I think it's really important to be resilient in those moments where you need to shut that off and really trust in what you think is necessary. And for me, it was really necessary for me to do something that is at least trying to do something with my life that is worth doing. And for me, that's always something that has stayed with me since forever.
So what was the process of getting from where you were to getting into the program and succeeding against how many other candidates?
Between leave everything to the last second, but it's more about, just try. I think for me, before getting this one yes, I have gotten an immense number of no's. I have gotten so many rejections before, and I think you need to kind of not let that get to you and really try to use everything that people tell you, you can't do this, you're not good enough, you're never going to succeed, you're never going to have opportunities. Like, all of the things that you're always told, and I'm sure a lot of people resonate with this, and I'm sure a lot of people have been told the same things, that this is not for you, you shouldn't do this, and you have all of those things that are constantly being told, and it could be difficult to not let that get you, but you have to just kind of believe in what you're doing and really believe in the possibility that it is possible. And no matter what, at least you tried. At least you have to put yourself out there and go outside your comfort zone and really take the risk.
So belief in yourself and mental resilience. I'm sure those are principles that apply to every sphere of life, including business, and for those who are entrepreneurs in the room, also startups, whatever businesses that you're running. One quick question for you. Jeff Bezos, one of your colleagues, who's also an astronaut, when he had the opportunity of going to outer space, he came back and made a statement. He said, there are no boundaries in space. It's just one planet, and it's fragile. And it changes perspective, not just about life, but also the planet that we live in. And since then, he's become a champion of sorts for the fight against climate change. In what ways did your experience in outer space change your mindset and your perspective about life on this planet that we live in?
This is one of my favorite things to talk about, honestly. And I was sent to space to analyze something called the overview effect, which is something that happens to your brain when you see Earth from space. And it is really a lot more profound than I thought it was ever going to be. As an engineer, I'm trained to be skeptical, but also trained to have an open mind. To always be, as a scientist, you have to be open to change your mind about things. So for me, it was about, well, yes, probably we have to probably it's going to change something, and probably there is going to be probably, because we haven't evolved to experience something like this, our brains are not trained to see Earth from space. We're always used to seeing everything from the inside. So for me, the thing that was really, really significant was how close space is. And we always, in our language, we always say that Earth is something, space is something, and we always say we're going to space, when I think we need to be corrected on language and say we're just leaving Earth. Because we are already in space. We are on a spaceship called Earth, and we are floating in space. And a lot of the things,
So in other words, there's a continuum. We're in space, but we don't realize it, because when we're in outer space, Earth is in space.
Yes.
You're just looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. And that changes a lot of the ways that you see the world. And for me, the scale of everything changed. When you go to space, you don't see lines on the map. There are no lines. And those lines all have created all of the disparities and all of the conflict that we have here on Earth. So you come back from space with this mindset that, well, it is our responsibility to protect it and to fix things. And when you see this thin line and you realize that's the only thing protecting us from space, you really feel the sense of, well, it's the only thing, and we have to protect it. It's the only home that we have. So since coming back from space, I have shifted my mindset into taking responsibility to actually do that and to really create much bigger change. I've always worked on solving problems my entire life, but now I am less afraid to take the bigger risks.
Awesome. Now, to your mind, as an astrophysicist, as an engineer, scientist, in what ways can science and tech help Africa lead from innovation? And what do you think the greatest advancements are that will have the greatest impact on the continent?
Well, it's really difficult for me to point at anything that we use in our daily lives that is not connected to space. Literally everything. And I think it's just about, realizing to try to point that out. Everything that we are so dependent on space and the technologies that come from it. We actually go to space for Earth. And this is something that I think not a lot of people realize. All of the astronauts that are on the International Space Station right now, they're working on experiments that benefit life on Earth. We're working on solutions for cancer research, for osteoporosis, which is this when you lose bone mass as you age. It's something that's going to happen for everyone. And we're working on treatments for that in space because you lose bone density at a much faster pace when you're in space. So that we're working on experimenting those first in space to be used on Earth. And then a lot of things that can benefit Africa as well is satellite development testing. So satellite can be used for remote sensing, it could be used for weather predictions and a lot of things. And if we continue depending on other countries for this data, we are giving up a lot of control. And I think it's really, really important for us to gain that control. Yes, I think it's really, really important for us to have that power compared and with respect to the rest of the world, to have a seat at the table and to really be able to make those decisions about humanity's future as well. We are going back to the moon before the end of the century, and we're aiming to go to Mars. So how we can't have just the demographic of people that are on the moon and in space not look like the demographic of people on Earth. This just cannot be right. It's just not right.
Well, with that projection about men and women going to the moon, where do you project that will be in terms of space exploration in the next 5 to 10 years? How different would it be in terms of the numbers and in terms of what will be happening in that space? And why is it important? Why is the space race important?
There's a lot of reasons for that. So first is there's this philosophical side and there's the actual clinical side. So the philosophical side is that our universe is just so huge. And we as human beings are the fact that we ask questions, it is what makes the reality around us reality, right? If we're not there to question it, if we're not there to ask those questions or look for its beauty, then it's not. Who tells us that if it's real or not? And the universe is so big that it's very, very highly likely that there is other life in space. So for me, would be really sad for humanity to not be multiplanetary, for humanity to not explore where it just came from. We are made of stardust. When you eat a plant, you are um, eating a plant that contains the energy that's coming from the sun. So you're eating things that are coming from space. So and we are made of that. And it's just about exploring our origins, our understanding of the world. And that could help us be able to save Earth. Because when we're studying what happened to Mars, let's say, why is it not livable right now? If we continue to study why it's become what it is, we can be able to solve life on Earth. And all of the technologies that we're using for that are directly applicable for Earth.
How long were you in space for, and what were your responsibilities? I'm assuming it just wasn't a sightseeing trip.
It was not a sightseeing trip, no. I was sent to space to analyze the Orion effect. So and it was on a suborbital flight, so it was within a day. It was on a rocket called Blue Shepard. So it was named after Al Shepard, the first American astronaut. So it was the same exact trajectory that he did many years ago. So for me, because I was the most trained astronaut out of the crew, I was responsible for medical emergencies. I was seated the astronaut one seat, and next to the capsule, the hatch. So in case something were to happen, I was responsible for specific scenarios, and I was only one certified to actually conduct those just in case scenarios. But thankfully, nothing was, everything was okay.
Now, there have been mishaps over the years of the many decades of exploratory space travel. Were there any concerns, inhibitions that you had, or fears just before taking off? What was that experience like, and what was the experience like for you from blast off to suddenly self-express? How long does that take? So two questions in one. Was there any fear, and then what was that experience like? For those of us who spend most of our time here on Terra Firma.
Yes. Well, I'd like to kind of give you an experience. If you close your eyes right now and try to imagine yourself walking on a launch pad towards the rockets. And the rocket is there, the capsule hatch is open, and you see your seat and you're walking towards it. And the rocket is already alive, so you hear it. And you go to your seat and you sit down and you're doing your last hookups with mission control. You tend to start feeling this anxiety inside, right? You feel this feeling in your stomach, this ache, where, oh my God, I'm sitting on a rocket and I'm going to be launching in space. And, well, you need to kind of be able to switch those feelings, to be able to really think clearly just in case anything happens. You need to be able to really be at ease and be at peace with whatever outcome that comes. So part of my training was a lot of psychological training. I had to visualize myself in that scenario again and again and again, and replace whatever anxiety, whatever fear you're feeling with moments of peace. And my moment of peace was when I was volunteering in Madagascar in one of my chapters many years ago. We had turtle watches in the morning at 6 a.m. So I used to sit on the deck, watch the ocean, and we had to just spot turtles. We're surveying the turtles. And for me, that was the most peaceful time of my life. So you have to switch the moment of being at peace when you're actually on top of a controlled explosion, basically. And you signed your life away. You have to sign a bunch of papers, really making sure that you're aware that this is not without risk. And you know that. But
those are the risks that you probably might not come back.
Well, of course, there's always that risk. When you go to cross the street, that's a risk as well. And I think it's all about whether you think the risk is worth it or not. For me, the risk was very worth it because I had been working so hard for so long for that even if I knew that, I might not come back, it was worth it for me because you become a lot more at peace as well with death and at peace with a lot of things, at peace with yourself, at peace with everyone around you, with your work, with your purpose in life. And that honestly transformed me. I mean, it's really, I think something that's we need to all be okay with, because that is inevitable. And I think the best thing that we can do instead of fearing it is being at peace with it and living your life every single day with your sense of, am I fulfilling my purpose? Am I doing my best? Am I helping as many people as I can every single day? Am I really trying to make a difference? And if at least one or two of these has been checked, then you should feel at peace. If you should not fear what you're not in control of, you should always 100% work your maximum when you are in control, but never stress what you're not in control of. If you're sitting on a plane, there's nothing, I mean, it's scary to say that, but there's absolutely nothing that you can do to stop it from crashing. So it's just being at peace with that mindset of, well, I'm sitting here, why stress about something that I'm not in control of? And just enjoy and be at peace with everything.
Great words of wisdom and certainly tremendous applications for life in general. Now, you started a startup, it's a tech startup, and you're also the chief business officer of another startup. My assumption, just from what you said, is that you've been able to transpose, take lessons from your experience as an astronaut and bring that into the world of business. That's my assumption.
Yes, of course. My company in Colorado, what we do is we're trying to target the problem of inaccessibility in space. When I wanted to work in the space field, because of my passport, I'm Egyptian, I was not allowed to apply to positions even if I was completely 100% qualified for it, because of where I'm from. So there are laws that exist that stop people from working in the field if you want to, even if you're qualified. So I started this company. What we do is we create opportunities for people from all over the world. We do not have any limitations from resources to nationalities to anything at all. So we provide opportunities in research and education, and we have space lawyers working on educating Congress about the laws that exist and why they need to be changed. Because a lot of US companies are having trouble hiring people, and a lot of international partnerships and collaborations between the world, which is part of the Outer Space Treaty, that's one of the priorities, they're just not happening or being stopped after years of work because of those laws. So now we have around 80-something researchers from all over the world working, and they're being mentored from people from NASA, from SpaceX, from Blue Origin, biggest names out there. And they're actually conducting very solid and very impactful research in the space field, where they would otherwise not have had the opportunity to do that. So everything that we've created within the Space Initiative is everything that I wish I had at the beginning. And in the second company, what we do is we use algae it's a very simple solution to a very big problem. And that's how I always like to think of it. You can always take a very big problem, break it down, and use simple solutions. And you can be creative. You could use, I mean, it could be anything, but it needs to happen. You need to be able to do it. And for this other company, so what we do is we use the algae for carbon sequestration and local production. So we have an Earth line and a space line. For Earth, we're trying to reduce the carbon in the atmosphere, so we have products that can be used indoors or outdoors, and remove all of the pollutants and toxins that are in the atmosphere. Again, it's a very simple solution, and it could be out there. But the problem here is that academia, business, politics, there is some language barrier, and that's something that I've noticed. Because my background is in engineering and I have experience in entrepreneurship, I see this barrier all the time. So that's what I do now to help companies as well, is that you need to translate this language. And since coming back from space, getting more involved in politics and like trying to speak to politicians, there is a whole other thing. Yes. Yes. And there is a lot of, this is a whole new language. So I think there needs to be a bridge between those languages, this language of tech and engineering, this language of business, and how you commercialize something that's been done in academia for decades, that is a useful product that could be life-saving. It's literally saving the world from climate change.
One of your companies is based in Colorado, the other one's based in Poland. My obvious question is going to be, when are you and your partners going to set up something in Africa, considering that quite a number of African countries already have space programs, and I'm sure that there are lots of young people who will aspire, or want to aspire to the same things that you have aspired to, but will never have the opportunity, considering, again, the balance between their department, Africa, and the opportunities to go to Europe or the United States. Any plans to set up anything in Africa? I know it's a tall order, and you're doing a fantastic job. What are your thoughts about it?
I would love to. I have a very, honestly, that's something that I'm really working very hard to make happen because I think it's really important for Africa to happen. And because I am African and I feel like also the sense of, the sense of, well, I need to help Africa. It's because it's where I'm from, it's my home, it's my blood. And I mean, doing that, everything that we do, so the company in Colorado, we have people from all over working. So they have the opportunity. So it being based in Colorado is not limiting, and that's what we're grateful for.
So Africa50, you heard that here. There's an opportunity with Sarah. So I hope you're taking notes here. And I'm going to give you a few final words here. For the young audience, young adults who are aspiring, not necessarily to be an astronaut, although there are some who would be, but others also have other ambitions. And there are numerous challenges, lots of bottlenecks along the way. We have many young people who are frustrated or despondent and have lost hope. Given your experiences overcoming remarkable obstacles, what would your advice to them based on your experience?
A few things. So if we want to achieve something that's was deemed impossible, we need to really believe that it is possible. We need to really see it happen. So I think there are three pillars here that I think I always like to mention is that yes, we need to work really hard. We can't just dream about something without working for it. But we need to not only work for it, but we need to also have focus. In our day and age now, there's a lot of short-term gratification. There's a lot of distractions. And I think having focus on the long-term effect rather than the short-term ones, that's really important. So you have to make a lot of sacrifices, a lot. And you need to have you have to trust your guts in understanding that they are going to be worth it. And three, which is the most important one, is seeing it happen. I think there's this very untapped power of visualization and manifestation that is just so powerful that we have as human beings that I think is maybe not talked about enough. You have to see it happen, and I think the more you do that, the more you see yourself in those positions, I think the more possible it's going to become. I remember a few days ago, I was sitting in the room where I grew up in Egypt, and I was thinking almost exactly 15 years ago, I was in that room, and I couldn't really see my future. I couldn't see myself in any of the positions that were available around me. And I was wondering, what is my future going to look like? I can't see it. I can't see anyone doing what I want to do. And for me, that kind of like switched in there, and I was like, oh yes, I'm going to see myself until it actually happens. And that continuing to do that, continuing to just believe in yourself and believe in other people around you. The problem in Egypt and in a lot of countries as well is that we tend to have a lot more disbelief in ourselves, in our country, and our people that are of the same kind of, that live in the same place. We disbelieve in them. We always think that we're not going to be good enough. And that also should be changed. We need to believe in ourselves and believe in others around us. We need to have the sense of the pie does not have a specific amount of pieces. So if you take one, there's not less for others. And so I think it's like all of that, the mindset of, well, there's always more, and the more you try, the more there's going to be available. I think we need to be working with others. And the last thing is resilience. When it gets really hard, the only thing that's going to either tell you you're going to succeed or not is if you give up. I think when things get really hard, that's when you want to give up the most. And I saw this piece of advice a lot, especially PhD, because I'm now doing a PhD, is that when things get really hard, you can't quit. You quit when they're easy. Because then when you can quit, like, it's not a bad thing to just give up on something. You can, the idea for a startup could be just too early for the market, right? And that's not, dropping that is not giving up, but it's just making a smart decision. And similarly, for a PhD or for any other decision, do not quit when things are hard. Quit when things are calm, because that's when you're making the right decision. When things are hard, you have to stick with it. You have to keep going, because you've gotten this far. You have no idea how much further you need to actually make it. So I think that's the key here. Don't quit when things are hard, quit when things are easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give Sarah Trevor a warm round of applause. Truly a remarkable individual, truly innovative in wise words coming from someone as young as you are. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments. The fact of the matter is that Sarah Trevor embodies really the hopes and the aspirations of many of us. As an astronaut, as a scientist, our hopes and our dreams really limit the dreams and the hopes that many of us have. The sky is not the limit, as Sarah has found as she's explored space. Really, when you go beyond the sky, as many of us will in our journey called life, all it is a stepping stone into a greater journey for every single one of us. So for those of you who are entrepreneurs, investors, business people, the sky is not the limit. It is just a stepping stone into a greater beyond right here on terra firma. You have a purpose, your life counts, and you will make a difference. On that note, I'm going to invite Dr. Adishna and Alan to the platform to close this session. Please, I think we can do a whole Alan and Dr. Adishna as one for Sarah service. It's a wonderful pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Great success.
Well, I actually wish I came much earlier, but I had several other things I was doing. But so yeah, just simply inspiring. It's quite amazing. To have a young African scientist like you give us a hope that young people can actually be in space. It's quite incredible. I remember as a young kid, what was the astronaut that the Apollo. Yeah, Neil Armstrong. Yeah, actually I went to Purdue University in my school, so I claim that at least I have a little bit of affinity towards the space. But Neil Armstrong, when he actually landed on the moon, my father took us out to a stadium in Nigeria, which was Olubadan Stadium, to watch Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. And I always felt that everybody going to the moon were not Africans, And now to have not only an African, but have an African woman in space, I think it is quite amazing. People always say that what women can do, what men can do, but I think that women can do better what men can do. And yesterday we were talking, and I was asking Sarah about space, and she told me that the Earth was just a little blue curve, right, like that. And so at least that's very comforting too. And I asked her, I said, how do it look like when you look at us? She said, when you look down from there, you guys don't look like you matter. It's very small. So that's pretty humbling to know that for all the things we do, we don't really matter that much. We're pretty small compared to what's up there. But thank you for being a great inspiration. Thank you for loving science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Thanks for being an inspiration for us in Africa. And thank you for helping us to know that for some of us that, when my time ends as president of the African Development Bank, I'll have to find a new future. And now I see that I finally can go to space. And maybe Alan, we may start investing in infrastructure to get us there. And the board members are here looking good to be there. But please put your hands together. Now to my future co-pilot, going to the moon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was not planned. So I think first of all, let me thank His Excellency President Ford, the government, all the distinguished participants, ministers, my chairman, just for participating in this great 2 days that we've just spent together. We've heard about the visionary leaders, His Excellency President Ford Nyasimbe, and then our chairman, Dr. Adeshina. We've heard about their visions, And then we also spent some time learning about different topics on infrastructure. I also believe that we heard, inspiring advice from Tijan Tiam, one of our African champions. And we did a few additional things which are quite important, a number of signings, just to concretize the vision of our leaders. Again, President Ford and Chairman Adishida, they've presented the vision, but we're showing to them that we're starting implementation by the signing. One of the important signings was the acceleration fund, where we're mobilizing Asian investors' capital to translate into African infrastructure. So a lot of excitement here. Now we need to make sure that we go ahead and implement at speed and at scale. That's what we want to do starting now. And I also want to thank Sarah for your inspiring words. Quite amazing what you've done. And I was listening to you and I was saying, gosh, she's young and she has so much wisdom. And she took a lot of notes, I should say. I mean, I'm proud of learning. Whenever I'm able to learn, I learn with pride. So thank you very much for sharing your wisdom. And again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for leading us. And thank you to my colleagues, the organization team, GPD and their team that put this together, and the organization. So great stuff. Let's go and implement at speed and with scale. Yeah.
Very yesterday, everybody on the dance floor and so on. And I was happy to actually have an opportunity to dance with her. And I realized that our steps were different from those on the earth. Kind of floated a little bit. So I had asked her yesterday how it was. She said, you float in the air. So I think we learned something, float dancing or something like that. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to reach another to we'll see you on the road. Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome to see everyone. We're just going to take a quick group photograph.